Yes.
And to develop it maybe into a greater.
Yes. You know, and I want to say this, Preacher Mills, what I recognized very quickly at the Durham Rescue Commission, and I like this, that you might hire a person on staff. You recognize they would be a good person for the mission, but it doesn't mean that that person is just pigeonholed and stuck in that place, because it may not be working. I think that worked with my son Josiah. You know, he was, I think, originally hired, and, you know, as a counselor, I'm thinking to myself, okay, that's going to be a challenge for him. But no, actually, first he worked for summer at one of the stores, which he liked that. You know, he did enjoy that because he's a people person in that way. But you know, I think he really enjoys now working with Tony and Christy and Marcy as well. So, you know, I like that about the mission. You can switch things around. What's some other things? I've got some things I want to share. Yes, sir.
I would like to know if they have family.
Yes, family, and that's important because we have a point here that deals with that about family. I wrote this down: spiritual gifts. I mean, I don't know if any of you have ever personally did a spiritual gift survey with your staff or with you or maybe your church or Sunday school class. It can be a lot of fun. It can be eye-opening. I didn't bring any with me. I just put in my notes that you can find plenty of these online. And so you can go and Google spiritual gifts survey and Christian spiritual gift survey, and you can find it. And it would be good to do that. And it's a lot of fun. Like I said, I think Peter Hill did one with us one time. Was you there, Lindsay, when he did that? Yeah. I mean, when I was there, when he was the assistant, he did one time, and with some of the people. That was a lot of fun. It sort of made you like what you. I know I found out I was like a golden retriever dog. I remember that. My wife was like a lion. So we're like opposites. So it was a lot of fun, you know. He kidded her about that. So, all right. What? Go ahead.
I would like to know their burdens.
Yes.
How to
important.
Support them.
Yeah. Burdens. And that goes sort of back to having, you know, occasionally a staff prayer meeting. And I think the mission has devotions. It takes that time, but, you know, what is your prayer request? And, you know, I think in time, some people are scared to give their burdens openly, but I think in time, as they begin to trust people, that can be helpful as well. What do they already know? You ever thought about that? Their past training. You know, sometimes they come to you and they've got skills, you know, for, you know, 5 years they worked at this job, and, you know, sometimes those job skills can help them, you know, in the future of what they're doing. And it could be something they just hated, didn't like doing, and they found out this is not for me. But there may be something in there, training-wise, that can help that person. You know, second story, part 2 of the story that I said in 9th grade English class. So I graduate from high school and I start a community college, and I go into the class or to the administrative office and place to sign up for the classes, and, you know, and I'm wanting to be. My goal was I want to be an accountant, and I looked at this thing and I'm thinking they're going to make me take a class called oral communications. I asked the lady, I said, did I take this class? She said, oh yes, it's required. You can't go in that field and that degree without that. I said, what does oral communications have to do with counting somebody's money? That was a question I asked her. And she said, well, I don't know that I can answer that, but I just know you've got to have this class, and it is required. It's the first semester. You've got to take it. So we'll go in that class, and the instructor comes, the professor says, okay, we're going to have, this is oral communications, and here's 3 oral speeches you've got to do, and one of them is called a persuasive speech, where you've got to persuade people to buy your product. Now, preaching is not selling, but you are trying to convince people. I can't tell you how God was working behind the scenes, giving me past training that has helped me to this day to overcome some of my own insecurities. So what is past training? How does it fit into their ministry? Lindsay, if I can pick on you a little bit more and say this, when Lindsay called me and she said, I don't know if I can do this, preacher. I said, you had 6 brothers. You can handle those women. Yeah, so, I'm convinced, I'm confident, Lindsay, you can handle them. What's so women when you got 6 brothers you have to deal with and clean up? Okay. Well, I won't go there, so, you can say that.
That's true.
She can say that.
I can say it. I don't deal with it, and I deal with them. They are worse.
All right. Okay. Well,
I think they're great in work small. They're wonderful.
yeah.
They're not difficult at all.
Right.
You got the cream.
It's the boys that are difficult.
And a question here we need to ask ourselves is this: is the staff, the current staff, and staff leaders probably would be, because I know you have departments and you have department leaders, but can your current staff, can your current department carry on if you were to get sick? That's an important question to answer, because if they can't, and I'll give a little personal testimony here. I went through a period, and my wife can testify to this, while I was pastoring, in the middle of pastoring, this was probably 15 years ago or more, that I thought nobody could do it without me. It was driving me crazy, and I was making these lists, and I was, realizing, I failed to realize I had, some good deacons who would help me. One of the things that come to me is, one of the deacons, in the middle of all that, I'll say this, my mother got sick and ill, and she was in the hospital for 30-some days at UNC straight, and then went home for a couple of days and went back, total of 60-some days altogether. And one of my deacons, thank God for this man, Allie Martin, he came to me and he said, Pastor, can I speak to you a moment? And in tears, he says, Pastor, he said, we're here to help you. We want to help you. He said, you need some time off. I know you're going through a lot with your family, your mom and your dad, and you had that heart attack. He said, we'll be glad to help any way we can. And he said, we're here to help you. And he said, what can we do to help you? So you thank God for people like that are willing to step in. In Bible college, I remember a professor making this statement, and it has rang through my ears. He said, men, if you are inspiring to or aspiring to be a pastor of a church, and if you are not constantly training for that day that you're not going to be the pastor of that church, and that church fails when you are no longer the pastor, then you, in a sense, have failed yourself. Because you've got to be building that staff to carry on. When you go on vacation, are you really able to go on vacation? Yeah. And I can say that when Preacher Hill came along, who's the current pastor of Eastside now, it was so wonderful. I thought, man, why didn't I do this sooner? To have someone you can, I told him, I said, I'm not going to call you, and you don't have to call me unless there's just something you think, preacher. And I told the men, I said, the deacons, I said, he'll handle it. If you got a problem, let him handle it. Because you need that time away. And I was so grateful. So, what do they need to know? Not only what do they already know past training, but what do they need to know? Don't assume that they already know everything. Christ was always teaching his disciples. This is still under the point of know them. When he was addressing the Pharisees or scribes or even the general public, he would later, I noticed, pull the disciples or his staff aside and tell them plainly what he just did and why he did it. I wrote this down. When you can teach and train your staff by showing them, to me, I think it builds respect in their heart for you. Illustration that I give is the first public job that I ever had was working at a Winn-Dixie grocery store. How many remember Winn-Dixie? Now that's telling my age there. Winn-Dixie grocery store. Yes. I told you like them to be people. Yeah. So, anyways, I had an assistant manager. Jack Lackey was his name. And each store at that time had a manager, store manager, and 2 assistant managers. And as just a bag boy and as a floor mopper and gum scraper and that sort of thing, duster, of the shelves, sometimes stocking shelves and specials, things and items that was on special. At the end of the day, and before we close, we had to get a lot of things done. And the other managers would get up there and they would, and from the little perch, I would call it, and they would shout, all right, you guys going to be here all night long? We can't leave till y'all get done, and, et cetera, things like that. But then Jack would get done what he's done, and if he had extra time, he would actually come out there and grab them up. Every one of us loved working for him. Why? Because he not only told us how to do things, he got involved in it. And so, a lot, and this is, to me, the hardest part when you start designating is, you sometimes designate yourself out of the picture, and that's not good, especially when you're working with people and clients, in that way. So build upon what you know about them. Jesus told the church at Sardis in Revelation 3:2 to strengthen the things which remain. The third point, spend quality time with your staff. What would you consider to be quality time with your staff? Someone answer that question. What would you consider?
You just mentioned
Yeah.
time with mom.
Yeah.
You might call that watering the bridge time.
Yeah.
But that builds the trust and gives you the
Right.
quality of that.
Yeah. They like working.
Yes.
Yes,
And
in
so
that way.
They will share their soul with you, and you will get closer to them, and then you'll be able to build their qualities.
Up to a certain point, we'll get to that point in a minute, Jesus was always engaged with the disciples. Always. Working with them. Listen.
There to listen. Your door's open. Knowing that when one of them walks in, you're listening to what they have to say. They may have nothing to do with the mission. Maybe it's personal or whatever, but you're listening. I think that's an important part.
When I pastored, Tony, I always kept, like this, big candy dish of Hershey Kisses on my desk. Yeah. Oh, you like Hershey's Kisses? Oh, I love them. But,
I had candy in my office.
Okay. Does Josiah go in and get some? Just Tony? Oh, yeah. Well, I kept mine on my desk for the sole reason is, I wanted children to come in there. I didn't want them to think, this is the pastor's office. This is a scary place. This is not the place I ever want to go. I didn't want them to be that way. So they would come in, and right in the middle sometimes I'm talking with someone if the door's open. They just come in and grab on my handful, And, thank you, Brother Mills. And, that's I like that. And I remember Caleb Aldridge, I'm talking about, when he was a little fella. He's now a teenager. And he said, can I have whatever I get? I said, yeah, stick your whole hand in there. And so he comes back, and his mama comes around the corner, and she said, did you tell Caleb he could have all these kisses? I said, sure. I said, grab all you can in your hand, and he'd come out with a whole scoop of them. She said, is he coming home with you and Tracy today? I said, he can. He's welcome to, but, you want to be inviting is what I'd say. Your staff should be inviting that way. Any other thoughts on that one? And I'll tell you what I wrote down here. Spending quality time with your staff.
Well, like the mission already does staff devotions.
That was my point one, yeah.
But on a separate day, with the ladies that I have, we have our own smaller devotion.
Yeah.
Time.
Okay, great.
And then typically, on a monthly basis, bring in something homemade.
Yeah, right. Staff devotions. That was the first point of mine.
Chrissy and I started when we were in development, but it got to be where we would pick a Saturday where we can't talk about mission. And we bring games
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everything and food. And we come together and cook and just eat and talk and play the games and have a good time. And,
Yeah.
We try to change it up. And one year, only her and I knew.
Right.
Was it was in my house, and I said, okay, we're going to make Japanese food. So we're going to have somebody bring like mayonnaise and corn. And they have, you kind of bring weird, odd things. And then when they got there, we did the hibachi chicken, the fried rice, only her and I, they were like, oh, that's what you made. And stuff like that. But it was just knowing that you're in my home, and I'm just, other than them fighting over Nolan when he was a baby.
Yeah.
You have to hold the baby, or just we're people too. We're not just in leadership. We're a family, and that's
Right.
what
Spending time outside of work, and I agree.
Yeah, we're a big family. I mean,
Right.
with us, like I said, with 9 staff, and I think all but three, we don't go to the same church, so we see each other a lot. But it's just having everybody over and spending time together and just having fun and just opening
Amen.
up and, you know, you laugh at
Yeah.
each other and, you know,
Have fun.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I said. Staff devotions make them fun, challenging, doctrinally enlightening. For years, we still do this with Josiah. You know, we have family devotions at night, and you know, point where the children get to a place where they can read and get involved. You know, they read the devotion. They be a part of it. We take turns praying in that way. Number two, I said find out what they need in their department, tools, technology, etc., and equip them to succeed. And I wrote this down. Being undertooled to do the job is very discouraging to a staff member who is giving his or her all for that ministry. You know, if they don't have the correct and the needed stuff, I mean, it's, you know, what, you know, and that's a question you need to ask your staff. What do you need? Is there anything you need? I mean, I had Sunday school teachers. One time we had a Sunday school meeting. We always had meeting, you know, like a fun thing, you know, meal, maybe some door prizes, you know, for all the Sunday school teachers, because they're volunteers, you know. It's sort of like you're having your volunteers day. But you ask, what do you need? Well, we're needing some, you know, who do I need to see about getting some new crayons? I said, how bad you need them? Oh, I need them now. I said, just